G'day guys, welcome back to the off-season. We've got a special little episode today before we finish our series of bringing back one player from each club. We'll be going through the top 4 clubs, the last installment of that series. But today, I thought I'd just go on a little deep dive with the coaches coming into 2023. It's pretty fucking impressive. I couldn't believe these numbers when I went through them. I've given Matty a little sneak peek, but I've got a few more to throw at him. Obviously, welcome back the Waterboy here on Guru YouTube for 2023. Welcome back, mate.
Thank you, Guru. What's going on? A nice break, but ready to rip back into it, I reckon.
Monday was good, wasn't it? Bloke in a bar, getting back in the studio.
Monday was fun. Like, it's one of those things where, like, you always dread, like, I've always dreaded going back to work, even though I had a mad job before as well, but, like, you always dread going back to work. I was literally excited on Sunday. I know that sounds wankerish, but I don't know. We just haven't spoken about footy for a while, so, yeah, mate, it was good.
It sounds so wankerish, but I was excited on Friday to come back on Monday. It was unreal. It was so good to be back. So I thought, off the back of that, I was having a look at, going through teams and whatnot, and I had a quick look at the coaches and some pretty wild numbers. So obviously this year we've got, I was going to say 2 new coaches. We've got 2 old coaches returning to the NRL. First one is obviously Wayne Bennett. He didn't coach last year, so he returns with the Dolphins. And then, of course, for the West Tigers, we've got Tim Sheens walking back in as a head coach, which the Tigers, they've recruited so many players. They're going to be one of the more interesting sides heading into next year. The Dolphins, obviously, they've recruited a fuckload of players coming into the competition under Wayne Bennett. Matty, they are 2 of the more interesting teams heading into next season, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to get a read. I think it's easy to get a read on the Tigers. They're definitely going to improve, but we don't know where to start with the Dolphins. There's no real baseline. Obviously, if you said a year and a half ago that this would be their roster, I think everyone would look and say, didn't really get the star that they wanted, or, didn't recruit probably as well as we all would have hoped. But if you go through the 17, I don't think they're going to come last or whatever. Like, I think they'll be okay. They won't go any finals. But again, I'm kind of just talking out of my ass when I say that, because I don't know. I'm not comparing them to anything. You know what I mean?
At the same time, though, if Wayne Bennett wasn't the coach, it's a completely different conversation. I think
if he wasn't the coach, they'd probably be my spoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the influence of Wayne. It's been the influence of Wayne for a very long time, similar with Tim Sheens. For those younger viewers, obviously Tim Sheens, he coached the Canberra Raiders back in their glory years, won 3 premierships there, 89, 90, 94, lost the 91 grand final. Obviously a very, very talented team between your Ricky Stewarts, your Mal Meningas, your Steve Walters, your Mullins, these Laurie Dailies, Bradley Clyde, list goes on and on, Lazarus. But then, of course, he spent time up with the North Queensland Cowboys when they first came into the comp. It really struggled up there. We were saying on Bloke in a Bar the other day, and I found the numbers. I think his win percentage there, Matty, was like 27%. It was shit house.
Yeah, I got it here, 26%. 26.2%, yeah.
Yeah, so awful, realistically. And then, as the story goes, Benny Elias is on the board for the West Tigers. They're trying to find their next coach. Rings his old state of origin mate, Laurie Daly, and says, who do you reckon? He goes, mate, the guy that you need to get is Tim Sheens. He'll win you a comp. Benny Elias just went, you're fucking kidding, aren't you? Rang Tim Sheens, managed to get him down there. He starts in 03. They win. Is it the greatest upset in rugby league history as far as a team winning a comp, do you think, Matty?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
It's a podium finish at worst.
I think we spoke about it, last year. It's in that kind of area of time. It's between them and the Panthers, I think. Yeah. But it's it's probably the most wild premiership. Not the game itself, but just how they changed their attack and totally just rethought how to play in attack with the ball in hand, and it just worked for 1 year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have a look at that Panthers side that won that comp. They took on the Roosters in the grand final. Roosters, I think that 03-04 Roosters is one of the best sides we've ever seen.
Yeah.
But the Panthers really took it to them, sort of playing a Roosters-style footy. What the Tigers did was out of nowhere. There's a story that Matty Johns tells that he went down to Tigers training, and I think it was 04, and he was standing there with Tim Sheens. He was watching them train and just going, what the fuck is this? It's like they're playing touch football, the way that they're all manoeuvring around and everything. And they weren't going that well. And Tim Sheens sort of said to him, when the penny drops, this will be amazing. And of course, a year later, out of nowhere, they win a premiership. Scotty Prince at 7, a young Benji Marshall, very, very young Benji Marshall at 6, a young Robbie Farah. Incredible stuff. So Tim Sheens, Wayne Bennett's got this incredible record of success throughout the years. Tim Sheens has got an incredible record of just reinventing the game. So with the West Tigers coming into this competition with so many new players, especially with crafty guys like Api Curacau's, guys like Bateman, these sort of guys, I think they're going to be very, very interesting. So you got Wayne and Sheens.
Sorry, just on 05.
Yeah.
I think as well what makes it even more interesting is that obviously all that work was built and like it took years and years and years. But if you're looking at just wins and losses, they had half a good year. The first half of 05, you know, where were they? They were sitting outside the 8. Like they were lost. They were sitting in 12th. They were sitting in 12th after round 15. They missed the finals the year before. They missed the finals a year later. So it's just so interesting that they just explode, like seemingly, obviously they didn't seemingly explode. They'll build up to it, but they seemingly exploded for half a year and won the premiership. It's crazy. And
like, there's not many, and you know, it makes sense when you think about it in your head. Oh, you're the team that's got momentum coming into finals. You'll carry that into finals. You look through the history of the game and teams that have done that, the comp restarts finals week 1, realistically. So there's not many teams that have actually done what the Tigers, obviously what the Tigers did was amazing, but just to gather momentum halfway through the season, suddenly click and then be a new footy side, it happens very, very rarely. And, you know, there's also stories about in that Tigers team where they got halfway through the year and they got the captains together, or the leadership group, and sort of said, do we change things? And I think it was Darren Centre that said, no, stick to what we're doing. We believe in what we're doing. And then it sort of started to turn momentum. I think that they said at the start of the season that their aim was to finish top 4. And then halfway through the year at that meeting, they said, oh, should we change it to top 8? They sort of went, no, fuck that. We still think we can make the 4. And just momentum started to flow after that. So you've got Wayne Bennett and Tim Sheen. So between the two of these guys, they've won 11 premierships. That's including Wayne Bennett's 1997 Super League title, so you can take that off him if you want. I'm going to include it for the sake of this. 11 premierships. After those two, there's another four coaches that have won premierships. There's Craig Bellamy. He's won 5. I'm including 07 and 09. You can take it off him if you want. I'm not going to argue with anyone on that. Just for argument's sake, I'm going to include how many grand finals they've won here. So Bellyache, he's still got the experience of those grand final days and whatnot. He's got 5. Trent Robinson's got 3. Ivan Cleary's obviously got 2. And Ricky Stewart, he's got 1 back in 2002. So there's only 6 guys in this competition at the moment that are coaching that have actually won premierships, Matty. But of the last 35 grand finals, and I chose the last 35 because the oldest player in the comp this year is James Tarmer. He was born in December 1988. The entire time Jimmy's been alive, there's been 35 grand finals. That's including the 2 in 1997, the Super League and the ARL. So there's been 35 grand finals in the lifespan of the oldest player in the competition. Of those 35 grand finals, 22 of them have been won by these 6 coaches. That's 34 years of rugby league. 22 of those 35 grand finals, remember, 2 in 1997. That's 63% of those grand finals who have been won by current coaches over the last 34 fucking years.
When you told me this yesterday, I had to get you to repeat it because I thought, like, it didn't like click in my head. I thought maybe it was like they've been in one of the grand finals, but when you really peel it back and think about those numbers, like, that is unbelievable.
So what Matty just said, he thought that they'd appeared in the grand finals. Of the last 35 grand finals, 30 of the grand finals have included one of these 6 coaches.
That's almost as good as impressive.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Only 5 grand finals of the last 35 have not included one of Wayne Bennett, Tim Sheens, Craig Bellamy, Trent Robinson, Ivan Cleary, Ricky Stewart. Unbelievable. And one of those grand finals is 2014. Matty, who were the coaches there?
Michael Maguire and Des Hasler.
Des Hasler, who was sacked last year.
Last year, yeah.
So, and how on earth Des Hasler isn't coaching, I've got no fucking idea. But amazing. So if you would have had those two still in this competition somewhere, or one of those two, it would only be 4 grand finals.
It's crazy.
I think it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just how dominant these guys have been. The longest stretch over the last 35 years of premierships that were won not by these coaches is 3 years. 2014, 2015, 2016.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
There's another 3-year stretch, 95, 96, 97, if you just want to look at ARL and take out that Super League Grand Final. Regardless, 3 years is the longest stretch without one of these 7 coaches winning a premiership.
It's funny you say that. That 2014 and 2016 period as well, that was that little time period where you had 3 drought breakers in a row. You had the Rabbitohs in 14, you had the Cowboys, and then you had the Sharkies. So it makes sense that those are the outliers because they had the 3 random drought breakers. So it's kind of an outlier. You can't give 3 years an outlier, but that period's kind of an outlier because that little period is when all those drought things happen. And
keep in mind, the grand final in the middle of those 3 was 2015, which Wayne Bennett lost in the last half a second of that game.
Yeah. Yep.
Keep in mind the grand final after that, Craig Bellamy potentially could have won off the last play if it wasn't for one of the best defensive efforts of all time.
So only 2014 is missing a coach from the last,
one of these
decades?
2. And who's Ricky Stewart's assistant coach this year?
I don't know. Oh, Madge. Yes,
Michael Maguire.
It is. Wow.
So James Tarmo being the oldest player in this competition, born December 19.
Sorry. Yeah. And I reckon Des Hasler will be coaching somewhere this time next year.
I would safely assume he will be.
Yeah,
and that's a scary thing. If you throw Des into the equation, if you were to throw Des and Michael Maguire in there, as far as coaching somewhere in this league, that 22 jumps up to 25, I think it would be.
Insane.
Which is unbelievable. Just crazy. Coaching. Matty, off the back of that, when you consider that of the last 35 grand finals, 22 of those premierships have been won by current coaches, could you call it like this the golden year of coaching? We haven't gone through and done the numbers of all the other years, but, I mean, it's been a while since Tim Sheens has been in the comp. Before that, you guys like Robbo, Cleary wouldn't have had any premierships. I'm not sure. You'd have to go back to the days of captain coaches and when like Churchill and these sort of guys were coaching to find a record where 63% of the last 35 years of premierships have been won by a current coach. I think that's unbelievable.
I mean, it's not like a safe bet because we haven't done the numbers, but I'm happy to back that bet purely because Sheens and Wayne are coming in this year.
If you have a look from the mark we've set, so from 1989 onwards, the first 5 premierships in that period, Tim Sheens, Phil Gould, Wayne Bennett, Tim Sheens. It's incredible. It is unbelievable. And then you obviously get to, and it makes sense that a lot of the coaches that are currently coaching have won premierships recently, but the reality is that's only 3 of them. Ivans won 2, Craig Bellamy won 1 in 2020, Trent Robinson, then Craig Bellamy again. Then you've obviously got your Shane Flanagans, your Paul Greens, your Michael Maguires, these sort of guys. Matty, it's incredible, especially when you consider that Wayne Bennett hasn't won a comp since 2010. Yep. Tim Sheens hasn't won a comp since 2005.
Yeah, wow, true.
It's unbelievable. Ricky Stewart hasn't won one since 2002.
Fucking wow.
And that whole argument too about, how many of these guys have just featured in grand finals. You look at Ricky Stewart, he's been in 4 grand finals now. He's only won 1, but he's featured in 4 as a coach. Look at the ones that, obviously, Tim Sheens lost with Canberra. Look at, it's Ivan Cleary's lost another one. It is unbelievable how dominant these 6 or 7 guys have been. And as we said, that's when you take out Des Hasler and Michael Maguire as well.
Yeah. It's just crazy. I think I didn't think about, is this the golden year, but I'm starting to convince myself now. Just as I said
on
before,
this specific year, and what these coaches have achieved in their career. Like even when you think about that, it's not like there's 10 coaches that have won that have put up. It's 6 guys.
It's funny that Sheens and Wayne were the 80s, 90s, starting 2000s. Then you got Bellamy, who's kind of in between. Then after that, you got Robbo. So the king coaches from the mid 80s or late 80s till now are all coaching this year.
Tim Sheens and Wayne Bennett had both won back-to-back premierships by 1994.
Yeah, I wasn't even born yet.
It's unbelievable. It's I think it's absolutely wild. And you have a look, the coaches that haven't won premierships, the coaches that aren't coaching right now that have won premierships, Phil Gould, Chris Anderson, Bobby Fulton, Mal Riley, Chris Anderson again, Michael Hagan, John Lang, Steve Folkes, Des Hasler again, Michael Maguire, Paul Green, Shane Flanagan. That's it. Flano's also an assistant coach at Manly.
Yeah, he could be soon.
He could be a coach during the season for all we fucking know.
Yeah.
That'll be the interesting one if any coaches do get moved on this year and a Michael Maguire or a Shane Flanagan or a Des Hasler get a job, all of a sudden that elevates again.
Goes up even more.
Should be crazy. Let me ask you this, Matty. Of the coaches that aren't on this list,
Jason Demetrio.
not named Jason Demetrio. But in all seriousness, like if
Yeah.
one of them is to join this list next year, I look at, like at the moment, I've got the two best teams in this competition being probably the Roosters and the Penrith Panthers.
Yep.
On paper.
Yep.
You're probably fair there that South's, off experience getting to prelim finals, getting to grand finals.
Well, I think, him and I reckon the three, you got him, Craig Fitzgibbon, Todd Payton. Those are three that could easily win a comp this year. Well, not easily, but you know what I mean.
Not easily, but they could. They're in that conversation.
They're in the conversation. It's not like they're fucking, that all three of them should make the finals.
You know what else I love about this year, and I hate it at the same time. The fact that we're gonna have a bye every week, Matty, shits me to no end. I fucking hate it. But with so many good quality coaches like this, it gives good coaches 2 weeks to prepare for games.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to watch some of these good coaches off the back of 2 weeks prep.
Yeah.
Coming into games, I think it's going to be unreal. And you watch the record of Penrith, Melbourne, Roosters, these sort of sides. Even the Dolphins, I think, coming off a bye, are really worth keeping an eye on because this is where the best coaches do their best work.
I think a good example, I'll use South because that's one I know the best, of using a bye week was last year when he hooked Lockie Ilias.
Yep.
And the next game was a bye for South. So he had 2 weeks to really think about what he was going to do with Lockie Ilias. Like, I know I thought he should have got dropped. Wasn't I fucking wrong? A lot of people agreed with me as well. Everyone was kind of wrong. He had 2 weeks to really get that together until we played Para, I think it was, and Lockie Ilias didn't take a step back for the rest of the year. So that's just an example of what the bye week can do. And you're right. That's the first year coach.
Yep.
Imagine what these other boys could do.
Yeah, it's just something for you punters out there this year. Good teams coming off a bye with 2 weeks with good coaches. I would be very, very keen on it heading into 2023. Just thought I'd throw those numbers at you because it simply is incredible. And look, that does include Wayne Bennett's 1997 Super League title. So if you want to scratch that, by all means, that brings it down to 21 of the last 35. If you want to take Craig Bellamy's 2 premierships from the Melbourne Storm, 07-09, which I'm not going to argue with, what does that take it down to? 19 of the last 35. Still makes it
crazy.
Fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
Insane. All right, guys, thank you for joining us once again. We will be back over the next few days. We'll be having a best 17. We'll be getting stuck back into those, myself and Matty. And then stay tuned next Wednesday and Thursday. We'll have Beers and Break-Evens returning. Wednesday, Timmy Williams, he'll be revealing his team. And then Thursday, I'll be revealing my shit show of a team as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you then.